Good evening, guys. So we'll take up another problem on electrostatics today, and we'll be taking up a problem which has been asked in one of the previous JEs before on electrostatics. So let's have a look at the question and let me share the screen with you guys. Okay, so the question goes as such. We have a non-conducting disk of radius A and uniform positive surface charge density sigma, and that is placed on the ground with its axis vertical. A particle of mass m and charge q is dropped along the axis of the disk from a height h with zero initial velocity. If the particle has a charge by mass ratio of 4 epsilon naught g by sigma, we need to find out what's the value of h required if the particle just reaches this disk over here, right? So essentially in this question, what we have is we have a non-conducting disk, and the radius of this non-conducting disk is given as A. It's given as A. And a particle of mass m and charge q is dropped along the axis of this disk from a height h. Is dropped along the axis of this disk from a height h. So we need to find out what is this value of h, or what should this value of h be, such that this charge or this particle, let's name the particle, such that the particle p just reaches the disk. This particle p just reaches the disk over here, right? And the other information given over here is it's mentioned that the surface charge density of this disk is given as sigma. So it's a uniformly charged disk having a surface charge density of sigma over here, right? Okay, so let's try to analyze this question first. So if this particle is just reaching this disk, we see that there are two forces acting on this particle as after it's being released from this height. The two forces acting on this particle are basically the mg force and the repulsive force. It's mentioned that both the charges are positive over here. This has a positive surface charge density, and this charge is also positive over here. So you'll have a repulsive force acting, right? And the gravitational force essentially remains constant, whereas the repulsive force would keep on increasing in value as this particle comes closer and closer to the disk, right? So there's a possibility that maybe initially mg was greater than f, right? And that's why the particle is falling downwards. But as your particle keeps falling downwards, so we want the particle to be falling downwards, basically. So initially our mg value has to be greater than the f value. That is the repulsive force. And then as your particle comes closer and closer to the disk, you will see that this force becomes more dominant. And then after a certain point, your repulsive force becomes more dominant than gravitational force. So essentially when this particle reaches over here, we want it to stop. We want its final velocity to be equal to zero over here. And that's what the condition, that's what the statement of this condition is. That is, we just want this particle to reach this disk. So in other words, we want its final velocity to be equal to zero. We want its velocity to be equal to zero over there, right? So this question can be analyzed in terms of force, but this question will be much easier to solve if we use conservation of mechanical energy. And why can conservation of mechanical energy be used over here? The two forces acting on this particle are gravitational force and your electrostatic force. And both gravitational force and electrostatic force are conservative in nature. Both gravitational force and electrostatic force are conservative in nature. So that implies, since these are the only two forces acting on this particle, we can conserve mechanical energy for this. So our statement now would become the initial kinetic energy plus the initial potential energy of this particle is equal to final kinetic energy plus final potential energy, right? And the initial kinetic energy of this particle is zero. And again, we want this particle to just reach the disk. So basically we want it to like just touch the disk and then go back. So its final kinetic energy would also be equal to zero. So we want its initial potential energy to be equal to final potential energy, right? And now your potential energy is due to two conservative forces over here. So you'll have gravitational potential energy and you'll also have electrostatic potential energy over here. So let's write down the gravitational potential energy part, or let's divide it in this way. The gravitational potential energy of the disk initially, of the particle initially, plus the electrostatic potential energy of between the particle and the disk should be equal to your final gravitational potential energy plus the final electrostatic potential energy between the particle and the disk. And then we can now write initial gravitational potential energy minus final gravitational potential energy should be equal to final electrostatic potential energy minus initial electrostatic potential energy, right? And the gravitational potential energy formula over here is pretty obvious. Your initial gravitational potential into this particle is mgh. The final gravitational potential into this particle, we can assume it to be zero. We'll take that as a reference level over here. And now how do we calculate the change in potential energy over here, the change in electrostatic potential energy. So we'll say that the change in electrostatic potential energy experienced by this charge is nothing but the Q value, that is the charge of that particle, multiplied with the change in potential. So this will be equal to nothing but Q into final potential due to the disk minus initial potential due to the disk. This will be equal to Q into final potential to the disk minus initial potential into the disk, right? And we can now use your formula for potential due to a disk. The formula can be derived as such, but let's take the formula directly. Your potential due to a disk is given as sigma by 2 epsilon naught under root of capital R squared plus small r squared minus small r, where capital R is the radius of the disk, and small r is nothing but the distance of the point from the center of the disk. The distance of point from the center of the disk. So the initial potential energy, the initial potential due to this disk, that is the potential at the initial position, would be equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught. Our radius of the disk over here is given as A, so we'll take that as A. And now this particle was initially released at a height of h from the center of the disk. So your small r value over here is h. So this is the initial potential due to the disk, and the final potential due to the disk will be equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught again under root of A squared. But now at the final position, the distance the charged particle has from the center of the disk is 0. So 0 squared minus 0. 0. Right? And now we just need to substitute this in this form. So what do we get from that equation? We get mgh to be equal to Q into V final minus V initial. It's V final minus V initial. V final minus V initial. So substituting the final potential value and initial potential value, you get sigma by 2 epsilon naught of A. This was the final potential value minus the initial potential value of sigma by 2 epsilon naught of under root of A squared plus h squared minus h inside squared. And for simplifying, for making this problem kind of simple, like to make the purpose of simplification easier over here, he has given an additional condition in this question, and the additional condition mentioned in this question is your charge by mass ratio over here is 4 epsilon naught g by sigma, right? So dividing this entire equation, let's say by m, we get gh is equal to q by m, and now let me take sigma by 2 epsilon naught constant into A minus under root of A squared plus h squared plus h. And now your q by m is given as 4 epsilon naught g by sigma, 4 epsilon naught g by sigma. So substituting this relation in this question, we get gh to be equal to 4 epsilon naught g by sigma into sigma by 2 epsilon naught of h plus A minus under root of A squared plus h squared. So 2 epsilon naught gets cancelled with 4 epsilon naught. We have 2, a g gets cancelled and sigma gets cancelled, right? So we get this final equation to be equal to h is equal to 2h plus 2A minus twice of under root of A squared plus h squared. Now it's all a matter of simplification. So we have 2 into under root of A squared plus h squared is equal to h plus 2A. And now squaring both sides, squaring on both sides, we get this value to be equal to 4 times of A squared plus h squared is equal to h squared plus 4A squared plus 4AH. So 4A squared gets cancelled, and now finally 4h squared with h squared will give me 3h squared. So A squared, 4A squared gets cancelled. So here we have 3h squared is equal to 4AH. So that implies 3h will be equal to 4A. So our h value over here will be equal to 4A by 3. Our h value over here will be equal to 4A by 3. Right? So a pretty straightforward question. All we needed to realize over here is this question would have been easier to solve by using our energy method over here, right? By using conservation of mechanical energy. We just had to realize that the condition over here was, in order for this particle to reach this position, initially this particle will be accelerating because again, we want this particle to fall down. So mg has to be greater than f. But afterwards, at a certain position, because this force keeps on increasing as this particle gets closer, your mg will be equal to f at a certain position. And now you want afterwards, f will be greater than mg. Your repulsive force will be greater than mg. So this particle will keep on decelerating. But we want this particle to just reach the disk. So in other words, we just wanted to reach the disk and then it'll get repelled back anyways, right? So we just had to make sure that its final velocity was equal to 0 over here. And that's the condition we had taken over here. And then realizing that the energy method is much more easier to solve this question, we have used conservation of mechanical energy as the forces acting over here are both conservative forces, right? And then it's just a matter of substituting all the formulas over here, especially using the formula of potential of a disk, which was equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught and a root of capital R square plus small r square minus small r, right? So I hope this question is clear, guys. I hope this question is clear.